We are ANN, and this is Planet Talk.
Hello and welcome to Planet Talk. I'm Alex Stein, and today is May 6th, 2021. Right now, the sun is conjunct Uranus and square Saturn, and this is really lighting up the Saturn-Uranus square that is so central to this time. Almost all of the news that I've seen this week in some way expresses the Saturn-Uranus square. So I'm going to go real quick through a few different items and talk about how I see that working. First of all, in India, they're having this massive COVID surge. It's the biggest COVID surge yet, ever. And it's toward the end of the pandemic, right? When things seem to be winding down and life is starting to get back to normal in a lot of places as more and more people are vaccinated and restrictions are relaxed. Well, in India, very few people were vaccinated when they relaxed restrictions. India long ago, the government kind of came to the conclusion that they had beat the virus and started, behaving as such, letting people go out and do whatever. And when that happens and people are not vaccinated, then people get COVID. And when a lot of people get COVID, even though not all of them are going to die and most of them are going to recover, a lot of people die. So over the last month, 8.3 million cases have been added, over 300,000 cases per day since April 22nd, over 400,000 in the last day. And for the last week or more, they've had over 3,000 deaths. And the hospitals are choked and having to turn people away. And the air is choked with the smoke from the cremations. And it just sounds like a complete nightmare. And you can see the Saturn-Uranus dynamic here in the consequences for rushing too soon into freedom. Saturn, the best that Saturn and Uranus have to offer, if we integrate them, is responsible freedom. It reminds me of the movie by the South Park guys, Team America, World Police, where they've got this song, "Freedom isn't free." Saturn-Uranus, that's a good kind of catchphrase for it. Freedom isn't free. So much of the dialogue around COVID and the vaccines and the masks and all this stuff is about my freedom. I don't want my freedom to be infringed upon. When are we going to be free again? I feel so restricted. I'm tired of lockdown. All of this stuff, it's like this very hard kind of grind, even for people who are very cautious and fully are fully on board with vaccines and fully on board with the lockdowns when they were occurring and fully on board with masks. It's still like you feel that sense of restriction and you want to get out of it, and it's natural. So India did it too soon with very few people vaccinated. You open up the gates and let everybody out, and it's like, well, the sort of obvious thing happened. And that's what could happen in the rest of the world if we, just let it go too soon and too few people get vaccinated. So anyway, another way that the Saturn-Uranus is coming through, let's look at another thing. In Mexico City on Monday, a subway overpass collapsed after a girder gave way. And this is, yet another perfect Saturn-Uranus expression. It's a horrifying one. I think 25 people died. But the sudden break, we've seen this with the mass shootings, Right? There's been such an increased number in mass shootings recently, and you can attribute that to the sudden break in a person's psyche. He just snapped. Well, same thing in the outer world with a train overpass. The structure suddenly gave way. It just snapped. Uranus brings in the quality of suddenness. Um, Saturn, the structure, and both of these planets have a kind of rigidness to them. Saturn's rigid in being a rigid structural thing. Uranus is rigid in the kind of jolting quality. It's not a smooth and flowing thing. It's not like Neptune maybe going and undermining a structure, slowly dissolving away the foundations or something, like in a Neptune Uranus thing. It's like, this is a jolt. It's like an earthquake or a bolt of lightning. And anyway, so the sudden snap. And again, it comes down to a question of responsibility, always a Saturn thing. In 2012 was when this overpass was built. So it's new. It's not like an old structure. It's pretty new, but ever since it was built, concerns had been raised about design problems, about low construction standards. There were allegations of corruption, that it was just kind of hastily, put up and done on the cheap. And then it was damaged potentially in 2017 when there was an earthquake. And so this is yet another take on the Uranus-Saturn thing here is the kind of like evasion of responsibility, wanting to cut corners, playing too fast and loose. If you're not dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's when it comes to infrastructure, a moment will come when you have to pay the piper, and that seems to be what happened here. Now another Uranus-Saturn example was this massive cyber attack in Belgium. It's called a distributed denial of service attack. And basically what it is, it's not about hackers going in and collecting data, anything like that. It's just to undermine the system and cause chaos. And chaos is a perfect dark side of Uranus type of a thing. And of course, the system is Saturn. So this attack, the way that it works is by infecting many computers with malware that hackers are then able to control from different points. And then they all focus on one target and start, directing traffic at that target, which overloads the system. It's basically like a sudden and unexpected traffic jam that just like suddenly nothing can get through, and it causes the whole system to crash. And so this one server in Belgium basically controlled like the whole government, a lot of different organizations, universities, etc. Not just websites, but also like internal systems. It basically just brought the country to a halt, and was, really highlighted the susceptibility that societies have now to cyber attack. Like, this is a really easy way to cause utter mayhem. And now we can see Saturn and Uranus in here on a number of levels. First of all, Uranus relates to technology. Saturn relates to the structure on one hand, but also to undermining. There's Saturn as the negative force kind of a thing, the compromising. So, we can see Uranus acting on, Saturn acting on Uranus, maybe with the way this DDoS type attack works, of infecting different computers with malware, right? Mal, the prefix mal is kind of a Saturn thing, right? The greater malefic, right? So malware being installed onto a computer, a Uranus type object, right? And then undermining a whole system in a country, right? Like basically bringing government and all these different organizations, institutions, Saturn, to a halt, to cause mayhem, Uranus. So, also the overwhelming blockage, right? The traffic jam, that's also a Saturn thing. Stopping and blocking motion. And yet another one. Facebook decided to continue banning Trump for at least the next 6 months. They'll review it again in 6 months. But again, Trump is a great example of the shadow side of Uranus. We can think of Uranus as the liberal, the freedom fighter, the progressive, the genius, the mad scientist, all of that. But also, Uranus is the trickster, the eccentric, the one who won't play by the rules and is kind of like a, messes stuff up like an imp, or like, if you're familiar with Norse mythology at all, like Loki, like, the trickster is just kind of not the clever kind of trickster, like a kind of malevolent idiot type trickster. And that's the way I see Trump. And he was banned from all the social media platforms because of his of what he did to incite the Capitol riots, failed coup attempt, basically. And so here we see Saturn consequences for the kind of out of control rogue trickster type behavior of Trump. So I think that's all I'm going to say for today. So stay safe. It's pretty crazy out there. Remember, freedom, responsibility. There's no such thing as total freedom. Okay? That's particularly hard for some people to stomach. No such thing as total freedom. So what do you sacrifice? What are you willing to consciously sacrifice to the greater good? This is a more mature take on Saturn. It's not just a thou shalt. It's not just like, I got you under my thumb. You want to be free? Well, sorry. That's the way it can show up a lot, particularly if you're really grinding hard on, I got to be free, I got to be free, I got to be free. Well, you got to be free, but you also got to answer to Saturn. So Saturn will have his pound of flesh one way or another. So I think it's really important at this time to think about how it is that we bring these two together, because we cannot sacrifice one, right? While you can't have total freedom, on the one hand, you can't have total control on the other hand. And there needs to be some kind of reckoning between these two. And I think that in the long run, this is going to lead us to a for your society. You know, Uranus is going to smash down some of the old stuff that needs to go. You know, the sort of leftovers from Saturn Pluto, right? A lot has been kind of smashed of social structures, hierarchies, old beliefs, things like that. A lot has been smashed by Pluto, but now Uranus is coming in to do the kind of the final wrecking job, and that's great, right? A lot of that stuff needs to go, but we also got to have our feet on the ground and keep, you know, whatever's left standing after this this really chaotic and just, you know, trying time that we've been living in for several years. Whatever's left standing that is of value, like, we want to try to foster that in the best possible way and give it new life for the new world that is emerging. So I hope that this was enjoyable and informative, and I will talk to you next time. Thanks.